Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu diesem Interview, wo ich mich persönlich mega drauf gefreut habe. Brainstarter. Ein Projekt, das haben wir schon vorgestellt. Klickt euch mal hier rein, falls ihr es noch nicht gesehen habt. Wichtig zu wissen ist, dieses Launchpad ist quasi ja, komplett similar zu unserem Projekt, weil hier geht es um den Use Case. Es geht nicht um den Hype, also das, was man leider aktuell doch durchaus vermissen dürfte beim einen oder anderen Launchpad, und oft wird halt einfach das Geld vor den Use Case gestellt. Und das ist hier komplett anders. Deswegen freut euch jetzt mal hier aufs Interview, weil ich habe mir gedacht, Mensch, da laden wir uns doch gleich mal das Team ein und schauen uns mal gemeinsam an, was steckt denn da für eine Expertise dahinter? Was bringt das Team mit? Deswegen seid gespannt und bleibt auf jeden Fall bis zum Ende vom Video mit dabei. Auf unserem Kanal, da findet ihr spannende neue Projekte, ihr findet News zur aktuellen Marktlage und die faktenbasierte Analyse von Scams. Wenn euch die Themen interessieren, dann lasst uns auf jeden Fall schon mal ein Abo da. Und vielleicht ein anderes Projekt, was dich noch interessieren könnte, Evercraft. Wenn du gar nicht weißt, um was es geht, da geht es um die Beteiligung an einem Unternehmen, was sich wiederum in Zukunftstechnologien investiert. Also mega spannend. Klick dich mal hier rein und jetzt starten wir ins Interview. Eine kleine Vorabinfo noch. Das Interview wird auf Englisch stattfinden. Das heißt, ich werde jetzt auch komplett Englisch sprechen. Falls du jetzt sagst, oh, da werde ich jetzt nicht so viel verstehen, dann nutzt bitte die YouTube Translation. Das kannst du einfach einstellen, wenn du unten auf das Zahnrad klickst und dann wiederum den entsprechenden Untertitel auswählst. So, welcome to the interview. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward. I said it in the introduction. It's such a cool project you have. It's not hype. It's real use case in the focus. And this, I think, is really, really important. We say it so much times on our channel. But before we start in the questions, can you please briefly introduce yourself and the project?
Hello, Daniel. Hello, Uptrend subscribers. My name is Sebastian Książ. I'm CEO and co-founder of the Brainstarter, Down to Earth Launchpad. And I share this role with Martin. Personally, I have experience in running my own business since 1999. So it's more than 23 years right now. I have been also present in the blockchain environment and let's say Web3 space for about 5 years. I have quite big experience in building my own innovative projects in project management, in tokenizing projects, as well as in introducing token into the exchanges. And I also have experience in marketing and filmmaking. Maybe more details about my experience you can find on my LinkedIn profile.
Follow them. Martin?
Hello, everybody. My name is Martin. I have about 23 years of working experience, starting from research and development. I used to was a university lecturer and gradually transferred myself to the startup activities and enter the entrepreneurship. I get my experience from different universities, different locations. I accomplished some training at Stanford University, Cambridge University, University College London, and so on. So that provides me the wide experience about making applied research and then translate it into the useful things like products or services. That also brings me to the bodies which were involved in funding. I was a reviewer of grants proposals as well as startup proposals. So I had occasion to see a lot of projects better described, maybe not so good described, But that gives me the knowledge that everyone who is developing project is struggling with finding a proper source of funding, especially at the beginning of the business where we have great idea, innovative approach, but not so much funding. And that brings me to the cooperation with Sebastian. We know each other from high school time when we did climbing and speleology. So we explored caves, doing some risky things like young people are doing. But that also connects us in a specific way that we can trust each other. And now we can say we can also trust each other doing this joint business. We share the position of CEO and founders. Because we can't distinguish between our functions. We can, act properly as a CEO, either Sebastian or me. That's not important.
So, yeah, me and Martin, we created the Brainstarter, which is a launchpad, but quite specific ones, because it goes against the trend on the market. Our launchpad, as you know, is down to earth, and we are focused on real scalable, globally scalable projects with a real product, realistic revenue plan, and experienced team. And we focus more on quality than quantity. And also we are against today hype on the market. And when everybody say let's fly to the moon, we say stay on the earth.
Makes sense. This is the big reason we said, hey, this is such a cool project. We said it at the start. You have a completely different approach with your launchpad than almost all existing launchpads. I think almost everything. How did you come up with the idea to focus on quality instead of quantity?
I think maybe we could add on the beginning that I forgot to mention that we focus on down-to-earth projects, but mainly on the projects related to new technologies. In these areas, such as medtech, game dev, AI, metaverse, robotic, renewable energies, etc. And I think quite important thing is that we help project from the space of Web 2 in the transformation to the space of Web 3. So, and our main goal is, to incubate those kind of projects for tokenizations as best possible way we can do it. And now answering to the next questions, the idea was born in June 2021. It was so it's almost actually it is 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago. I just at the time I just finished cooperation with previous projects where I was a COO of these projects. We successful introducing token into the exchange with whole tokenizing process and etc. So I got quite good experience for my next step. But at the same time, I've been observing how other projects on the market that looked very weak and did not guarantee any development, any stable development, and they easily collected multi-million capital through tokenization. And it was surprising for me why so many token purchasers, they trust to those kind of projects where there are so many red flags. It was for me, it was something amazing why people do this at that time. And I was wondering why they are doing this. And I was sure those kind of projects will not survive the bear market. It was just, that those projects were good for bull market, where everybody thought that, token price will go up and up for forever. Yeah. As we know, it never happened. Also on the classic market. So, and I was surprised that those projects were promoted on exchanges, on Launchpads. That was something really strange for me, because this gave, impression that these projects were checked and trustworthy by these institutions. The truth turned out to be different. Launchpads avoided responsibility, claiming that they were always informed about the risk and that everyone should do their own research. Yeah, that's what
very important. Very important.
That is very important, yes. But when you don't have too much time to do your own research with each project, then you would like to trust to someone. And when you see the project on the Launchpad, presenting on the Launchpad or on the exchanges, you think this project is quite good, yeah, because they think it's good. They present these projects to the community. So when you don't have time, you think, yeah, okay, it must be good. It must be good, because if not, this project wouldn't be there, yeah.
We want to recreate the concept of the Launchpad. So when we launch the game, when we show the project, there is a semi-assumption of the community, and it was in the past as well, that the Launchpads, even there are a lot of claims that they are not responsible, so on, there was I would say so-called semi-assumption that, come on, it is already on the Launchpad, it shouldn't be a project which will not deliver the value. But in fact, it was not always in that way. I also don't want to say that all projects were like this. Obviously, we always speak only about those which were not famous at the end of the day. In our Launchpad, we name it, we call it down to earth. What means we really care about the quality of the business model. So if project itself is not able to show that there will be a healthy business model, the revenue stream and profit. The revenues are sometimes not so important. The profit is the most important part if we want to speak about a successful business in the long term. And if we see that project already has that feature, that function, there is a starting point to the discussion about the tokenization and the tokenomics and so on. So we only will try to think about tokenomics of the projects for those projects which we will verify in terms of healthy of the business. If we see that the business model is not well developed, we will always try to coach projects and founders to show them where we see possible risks. And here is also another important feature of the Launchpad. We will try to give feedback to everyone who will approach us. I'm coming from Web2 environment, where usually the standard way of obtaining funds for the startup is to go to VC, to angel investors. And those guys are so busy and they rarely give a proper feedback. Obviously, usually they give feedback like, oh, well, you are not ready for our funding, but it is something which will never help to improve the quality of project. Our approach is to give the feedback to everyone who will go through our initial stage, the first stage, where we will ask a few questions about the business, and if the project passes that first step, we will always give feedback with few words about why we are not convinced to continue that cooperation. And what project should do to be able to get back to our discussion, because we will also do something which is a little bit different from the other funds. I don't want to blame anyone, obviously, but there are some funds which speak, if you approach us first time, we will never speak to you second time, which is obviously maybe a feature of Web2 solutions. But in Web3, we really want to be focused on the community, and founders of the projects are also members of that community. So we really want to build up the trustful environment where we can speak openly what we like, what we don't like.
Yeah.
Down to Earth Launchpad will be focused on the best value to the community. We want to show the projects which are verified, which we are 100% sure that the method of reviewing gives us all green lights for going on. That's important part, and it is a little bit different than we saw in the past.
Yeah, and together with Martin, we found out that on standard launchpads, projects are source of the income. So more projects they have, more income they have. Yeah, so it seems like they cannot do very deep due diligence of the projects, because then they would not have too many projects on the launchpads.
Yeah.
So and we think that it should be changed, because usually when you are the CEO of the project and you would like to go to the launchpad, you have to pay a fixed fee and then success fee. So success fee depends how much funds they will collect for the projects, but fixed fee is fixed. Yeah. So this income for Launchpad is something they are sure they have. So they would like to have as much projects as it's possible, like one every week. Yeah. We say it's not the best way for developing, and we have to change it. And that's why we decided to create a Brainstarter, where we don't have any fixed fee. We rely only on success fee, which means that we have to make really good due diligence of the projects, because we have to be sure that we will have any success fee. Then we can survive. And this old method just promotes weak projects, and we don't want to do it in opposite way. And after many days of discussion with Martin, almost 2 years ago, we came to the conclusion that the Launchpads should take more responsibility and be willing to take risk in solidarity with community.
Yeah.
So it must be like this. The system must be changed, and that's something what we would like to do. That's why we decide to create Brainstarter, down-to-earth Launchpad.
Very nice, very nice.
Sorry.
Another point I have on my list, I think it's really, really exciting, and also a difference to other launchpads. The collected funds are not paid to the project all at once. We find this very exciting, as it ensures that the funds are invested wisely. I think this is a big problem to a lot of projects. Can you briefly tell us about the process of how projects can apply for the funds from you?
The project, after raising sufficient amount of funds for their activity, they needs to be still motivated to act properly. In the past, we were observed that some projects were a little bit too happy about amount of money which they raised, and they didn't control own spendings.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is not only challenge of the games from Web3. In the whole environment of startups, it is a common situation that as soon as funding is secured, the founders are a little bit more relaxed and they try to do something maybe simple, maybe faster, without proper controlling of all funds. In Brainstarter Down to Earth Launchpad, we want to split the funding for steps. So we will use DFNS solution, which will help us to hold all funds in a secure way on a proper designated wallet. But we will release tranches to the project only if the roadmap is accomplished. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with some tolerance, because startup is always startup. We know that everything and every time things happens a little bit later than faster. But we want to control that situation that after halfway of the roadmap, founders are so happy that they try to spend maybe not as they promised. And we trust them, but we also try to help them to be more reliable and more controlled in terms of spendings. And in any time, this way is also for our community, because if a project is not going well, sometimes it might happen, we still have control for that money. And in last way, if there is no any other solution, we can always pay back that amount of money which is not transferred into the project.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah.
You know, talking about risk is always difficult because everyone today is successful, and you know, people like to see only success stories.
Yeah, only that.
in that environment, in that stage when we try to do innovative businesses, the risk is our daily friend, and we also want to show how we manage that risk. And we also want to secure that amount of funds which is not required to the project. So, for example, if project raised $1 million, we know that we don't need to spend all that money within 1 month. That's why we will ask project to give a proper description of the roadmap, publish it within the white paper, and then we will act properly according to that roadmap. If they deliver, for sure they will receive next tranche.
Yeah. So the given project will have rights to use the funds in tranches after reaching individual milestones, and achieving milestones must be approved by expert advisory board. Mm-hmm. And the community. We have to agree for this. They can use next tranche of the funds.
That's very important because as far as we started Brainstarter project, we decided with Sebastian to never have the decision only with our 4 hands together, right? Because we know a little bit about that environment, but it is always important to have a proper body to evaluate the progress of the project. And in this case, that expert advisory board will be built precisely as a dedicated body to each GAM. We will invite some experts who are experienced in the technology and in the business. Even we know something about that, we always would like to know something from experts, and only if they are okay to go further with the project, we will release the tranches, and community will always have own voice in that decision.
Nice, very nice, very nice. And next question from my side, what is your business model? How does the staking and the airdrop system work in Brainstarter?
That's the most important question, I think, from our interview. Because as I mentioned, we want to focus on projects which have a healthy business model. So why we shouldn't design a healthy model for the Brainstarter? Obviously, we should do it, and we have it. Brainstarter business model consists of a few components. First of all, staking of brains. Each token purchaser has freedom to decide if he wants to use those tokens and trade them on the market, or do this what we prefer, stake the brains and be a part of that project. If you, as long as you stake the brains, each project which we will launch will generate own tokens, and everyone from those group who is doing staking of brains will have rights to obtain part of those tokens. Each project will, let's say, pay within the tokens to the Brainstarter, and Brainstarter will divide that airdrop into few groups, and one from them is a group for those token holders who are doing staking of the brains. In the same time, we will have rewards. So as long as you keep tokens staked, we will appreciate that with interesting rewards. And also we will have a tool which will prevent those from holders who are a little bit not patient and want to sell too fast. We call it a fee system. The fee system is a topic for, let's say, another discussion, but basically this will help us to transfer tokens from weak hands, which are more happy to sell faster than keep them on the staking mechanism. If they sell everything, assuming if they sell everything in one day, the price of the token would be drop off. And we want to protect our community and those who are still on the staking mechanism to not be, in weaker position. So the fee system is a method to collect a fee from those who are selling faster, and half of that amount is burned, and another half is transferred to those who are still with us on the staking mechanism. That's the three major components of our business model, and it can be understood in that way. When you buy brains, you buy the rights to be a member of the very, very unique community, very, very, luxury club, where we do things differently. We don't try to trade, buy from someone who is, losing money and sell to someone who is earning money in reverse way. We want to keep all community happy as long as that community is doing accordingly to this what we proposed. So when you buy brains, when you stake them, you have rights to obtain completely for free airdrops of tokens.
So we don't have any entry fee and any fixed fee for the projects, but each incubated projects will share amount of 1% of their token supply, and they will share those tokens for our community. And another interesting thing is, if we decide to incubate some projects, we also pay to the project. So we don't have entry fee, we don't have fixed fee, and we even pay to the projects with some part of our brains token. So we would like to create like Brainstarter environment between incubated projects. And when they share their tokens with our community, we are our assumption is that they are going to share like 1% of the token supply of their tokens. Then 20% goes to the Brainstarter as a reserve, and 80% goes to Brains purchasers who stake Brains token.
Mm-hmm.
And the method of splitting the airdrop will depend on the number of Brains which are staked and the tier reached by each one, and possible additional bonuses. And what we want to do is that we most privileged those members of our community which are early brains. We call them early brains. So they can expect a little bit higher bonus when we will share the airdrops.
Yeah, nice. That leads to my last question. What can someone expect after investing in a Brains token in this round?
Yeah. In this round, the price of the token is the lowest. In the future, we will always have higher value of Brains. And that value is about 4 times lower than the price, which will be during the public IDO. So that gives first benefit, I would say, because you buy now 4 times cheaper than it will be during public IDO. Buyers in this round will agree to stake those tokens and lock them on that staking mechanism for 24 months. That's the condition of this round. And during this time, they cannot liquidate tokens. It's locked. During all those 24 months, they will receive airdrops from every project which we will launch. Every project, that's the key component of the Brainstarter Launchpad. Each project will give us airdrop, at least 1% of their token numbers, and that part will be splitted for Brains holders who are staying with the staking mechanism. So if they are locked within the staking mechanism, obviously they will naturally obtain a proper airdrop. To elaborate that details, I will use a simple Excel sheet where we start to that presentation. We have to assume that amount of money which we will involve in Brains to buy Brains. Let's assume it is $10,000. Then we have to assume the price for the round and also price of the token during TGE, which is 4 times higher. When we then calculate amount of Brains which we are able to buy within $10,000, it gives us about 1.6 million Brains. And when we calculate value during TGE, obviously that is 4 times higher, which gives about 400% return. And now in following lines, we have years when we have that calculation. And also we put it here, participation of the pool in the staking. And now when we have airdrop from every token, we assume it is 6.3 million tokens of the token from the airdrop. We have to assume number of games per year. We are going to make only 2 games this year, 6 games next year, and following years also not too many projects. Here we see all games tokens as in total value per year, which is obviously growing up. And when we calculate total value of the airdrop, we have to multiply that all game token and we assume price from TGE. Obviously, that is a big assumption. The real situation will be different. When we calculate value of the airdrop per Brains which we bought, we have our participation in that airdrop. And when we have this, next we can calculate percentage of return when we divide our value of the airdrop by our money which we involved to buy Brains. And finally, cumulative return is given in the last line of that sheet. So that table shows a return from airdrops. However, we have to also consider the value of the brains itself. Sooner or later, every token holder would like to sell those tokens, and that is also sufficient value for the token holder. That healthy business model which we design brings that value. So you buy brains, you stake them, and after 24 months, you have 30% more in value, which is embedded into the tokens from projects. But that's not all. Obviously, they still have brains, and the token of our Launchpad itself will increase that value. But even it is still on the same level from the beginning, or if it will grow up to few percent per month, that's the sufficient amount of return which we can offer. Plus all those benefits like staking rewards and all those things which I'm not including in that talk.
Yeah, very, very, very nice. Now I will change into German, a short time. Leute, schreibt uns da gerne in die Kommentare jetzt unten, was haltet ihr vom Projekt? Auch natürlich alle Social Links werden alle unten verlinkt sein. Und klickt euch da rein, weil das ist auch für uns gesehen die Zukunft. Ein Launchpad, das wirklich mal eben auf den Use Case schaut, nicht einfach nur im Hype oder das, was man selber verdienen kann, sondern da wirklich ein Use Case in den Fokus stellt und somit auch die Investoren glücklich macht. Also schreibt uns da gerne mal rein, sonst wenn die Kommunikation auch weitergehen soll, dann kommt auch gerne in unsere Telegram-Gruppe, da können wir auch noch über das Projekt sprechen, aber wie gesagt, von unserer Seite, wir sind große, große Fans und an der Stelle, thank you for your time. I said it, Uptrend is a big fan of your project. I think this is really necessary for the next few years or maybe all in the future. If you see more regulation and so on and so on. And I think it's also very important that there is a trust point for the investors where they come and see, okay, there are really cool projects and not only the best project for the Launchpad in money. So I think this is the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for this opportunity to talk about Brainstarter. And everyone, feel free to ask more questions in the comments, or you can visit our social media as well. We are very active there on our Discord, Telegram, and Twitter. Thank you very much.